Welcome back to Movie Rewind. Today I will recap for you a horror, drama, mystery movie from 2019 titled Velvet Buzzsaw. Spoilers ahead, watch out, and take care. Morph is a pretentious yet influential art critic from Los Angeles. Renowned in the industry, his reviews carry tremendous power. They are capable of making or breaking a new artist, and often cause massive shifts in an individual piece's value. While in Miami attending the Art Basel Fair, he runs into Josefina, a friend and colleague from LA. Upset after learning that her boyfriend has been cheating on her, Morph shares his own dissatisfaction with his love life. He joins Josefina in her room, and they rekindle an old flame. Josefina works for Rodora Hayes, owner of the Hayes Gallery and former member of the punk rock band Velvet Buzzsaw. While in Miami, Rodora spends much of her time recruiting Damrish, an up-and-coming artist who currently works with an art collective. Upon returning to Los Angeles, Josefina finds a deceased man on the top floor of her building. She follows his cat back to his open apartment, and discovers an extensive collection of paintings in his studio. Some of the works are found singed in the fireplace. According to the building manager, the artist, Vetral Dees, has no living relatives nor did he leave behind a will. She then takes the artwork and shows it to Morph, who is fascinated by the artist and wants to know all about them. Rodora also hears about the collection and goes to Josefina's apartment to see them. Equally impressed, she immediately displays several of the paintings in her gallery, where they are met with universal praise. Gretchen, an art curator for a wealthy client, offers several $1 million for the first available pieces. Morph gives one of the paintings to an art inspector and begins doing research for his article. Vetral Dees came from a low-income family of 4, his parents and 1 sister. Early on, a suspicious fire killed his mother and sister, and he was eventually taken to an orphanage after his father was found to be abusive. After turning 18 he then disappears for nearly 3 decades, no records of his life whatsoever, until he re-emerges as a janitor for a veterans hospital, where he worked 42 years up until his death. To ensure the scarcity of the collection, Rodora directs one of her employees, Bryson, to transport some of the paintings to storage. While driving, one of the paintings appears to turn its head, then goes up in flames. Bryson strips off his burning shirt, and sees Dees's image flash in the rearview mirror. He then loses control of his truck and crashes into a seemingly abandoned gas station. He locates the restroom and begins cleaning his burns, but a painting of mechanic monkeys reanimates and pulls him in. Josefina and Rodora find his truck the next day, but the investigator reports that nothing was left behind except for a pair of AirPods and some cigarette butts. Morph continues his research and discovers there are no records of Dees's art with any museums or galleries. He uses a newspaper clipping to find the Veterans Hospital, where he speaks to one of Dees's longtime co-workers. The man doesn't have much to share but does note that one supervisor, who was particularly hard on Dees, was found dead in a nearby field, his wrists bound. The murder was never solved. Meanwhile, John, the owner of a rival art gallery, hires a private investigator to do his own research on Dees. After turning 18 and leaving the orphanage, Dees was drafted into the army. He served 2 years, then experienced a mental breakdown after returning to civilian life. He brutally murdered his abusive father, torturing him for several days before burning him alive. He then spent 20 years in a mental asylum, until it was shut down for experimenting on the patients. Hearing this, John tries calling Morph, as a courtesy before he makes the information public. He gets interrupted when an antique film projector begins playing, and won't shut off even after being unplugged. He steps up onto a chair to tighten a flickering light bulb, and a hand reaches out and grabs him, hanging him by his scarf. The following night, Morph is sharing an intimate moment with Josefina when the painting reaches out and tries to grab him. He tells himself it was just a visual disturbance, but the optometrist reports that his vision is fine. Rodora goes to see Piers, an accomplished artist who has begun struggling to find inspiration. Disappointed by his latest work, she sends him to her beach house and tells him to return only after he creates something for just himself. Morph then goes to see the art inspector, who has completed her analysis. The darker shades of red found in Dees's paintings had been made with human blood, presumably his own. It is also revealed that he had left explicit instructions that all his art shall be destroyed immediately upon his death. Meanwhile, Gretchen is at the museum putting the finishing touches on a new exhibit. After sending her assistant Coco home, she reaches into the display and it suddenly turns on. The metal sphere traps her arm. Gretchen tries to back away, but it continues, eventually severing her arm completely. When the museum opens the following morning, the guests think that she is part of the exhibit. They walk around her body and step in the blood. It's not until Coco arrives and begins screaming that they realize Gretchen is dead. Even so, the tragedy only increases the interest in the Dies exhibit, and the other wings of the museum remain open for business. That afternoon, Morph goes to preview a new audio feature. Before the broadcast can start, he begins hallucinating, hearing the voices of all those affected by his negative reviews. He runs out of the gallery and goes straight to Hayes, where he finds Rodora. Morph urges her to stop selling the Dies collection. He blames the artwork for John and Gretchen's deaths, and Bryson's disappearance, also sharing what the art inspector had told him. Rodora ignores his concerns and instead sells as many of the remaining pieces as possible, knowing that he will soon go public and tank their value. Morph publishes his article, thereby costing himself tens of millions of dollars in the process. He hires Coco and gives her a list of things to do as he plans to leave town for a while. Before leaving, he packs the last of his Dies artwork and takes it to storage. At the unit, he encounters a deactivated Hobo Man, the robotic art piece that he had negatively reviewed in Miami. The robot lights up and begins speaking, causing Morph to flee. Hobo Man follows and corners him at a dead end. He holds Morph against the fence and breaks his neck, killing him. Meanwhile, Josefina leaves a downtown bar and finds her car blocked in. With its owner nowhere to be found, she tries making a call, but an image appears on her phone and locks her out. A gallery then mysteriously appears in the wall behind her, displaying a collection of graffiti-style art. As she enters the gallery and slowly looks around, her phone unlocks and she tries contacting Rodora. At the same time, Rodora's cat runs outside. She bends over to bring it back in, when her yard sculpture topples over, barely missing her. Back at the gallery, the paintings begin to melt around Josefina and slowly envelop her skin. By the time she notices it happening, her body is completely covered in paint. The following morning, Morph's body is found by Coco and Josefina's image appears as part of the wall graffiti. Rodora, after hearing of Morph's death, has all of the Dies artwork removed from her home. Relieved, she sits outside on the patio and the velvet buzzsaw tattoo on her neck begins spinning, severing her neck. Coco heads to the airport, now moving back home to Michigan, and spots a street vendor who recovered a crate from Bryson's truck. A couple stops to admire one of the paintings, and the vendor accepts $5 for it. As the credits roll, Piers is seen merrily drawing designs in the wet sand, suggesting that the only way to avoid Dies's curse is to ignore the monetary value. Okay guys, thank you for watching. Please leave a like on the video, and subscribe to see more.